Oh man, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame. Nelson. NBA has a Hall of Fame problem, man, and we're here to help them out. All right, so every year we get like the list of the inductees that's supposed to be, arguably in the Hall of Fame. So they make that list together of like, man, these are people we have in contingency to be in the Hall. And of course, we got like the no brainers, like the duh they should be in, like obviously. You got the people that's like, oh, okay, cool, they should be in. It's like, oh, let me go back to them. I'm gonna circle back once I get through the list. I'm gonna double back to them. You got people that's like, that was cute, like that's cool. I thought we were on the same page here until we got to this person, and then we're on different pages. Like I respect them, they were cool, but not Hall of Fame cool. I like the game. I respect them as a hooper, but not Hall of Fame level hooper. And so we're gonna help them out and kind of make our own list and own tier because that's a better idea than just lumping everybody together in the Hall of Fame as one. So yeah, you in the Hall of Fame, but you like go sit at this table. We're gonna host them over there, like you sit at this table. Oh, Jordan, you at this table. You over here at this table. So we're gonna politely sit them where it belongs. So we're gonna have different tier system for how we see fit for the Hall of Fame. So let you start off first. Let the people inside your basketball brain let us know what you think and how you see the Hall of Fame should be tiered off when it comes to the NBA players of yesterday.
All right, cool. So I got my tiers already made. Now I'm gonna preface everything by saying, obviously, I made the tier list. All right, I named it. I put the people in there. I did all that good stuff. So it's based on my opinion. Now we can disagree. Y'all probably gonna disagree with someone, and that's fine. We can talk about it. We can argue, but this is my list. So let's go ahead and get that out the way now. So I'm gonna give you the names of the tiers, and then we can get into who's in every tier after. So tier number one, the first tier, the top of the top, the upper echelon, whatever you want to call it. This tier is called Change the Game. Change the game. I started to call it the goats of basketball, whatever, but I feel like the word goat get thrown around a little too much nowadays. So I called it change the game. So these are people, these are individuals that just as it describes, change the game of basketball. We cannot tell the story of basketball without these guys. These guys have a chapter in the story of basketball. So what I mean by that, that means they were the best players or they ran an era of basketball. Like people had to go through them. They won multiple championships, whatever you want to say. There's an era of basketball that they were the guys. And those are who the people who are in the change the game category. Now, this is not the people, don't get it confused with the people that's just like, oh, they had a big influence on the culture. Now, that can be true too, but we're not talking about culture right now. We're talking about the actual game of basketball, the NBA, how the game was played, whatever you want to say. So that's top tier. That's tier number one. Tier number two, all-time greats. These are guys that I believe you take them out of it. If you took them out of their era and dropped them into any era of basketball, they will still be one of the best players of that generation or of that time. So that is quantifying all-time greats, meaning at any point in time, they would have been one of the great players, one of the greatest players. So these are not guys that are just the top tier, but in the era that they played in, they could have been that guy in any era. You get what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Boy, you seen that? I'm glad it went right back. But anyway, moving on. Tier 3, greats of the era. These are a step down from all-time greats, obviously. They're some of the greatest players in their era. Now, that's not to say if I took them out of their era, they would have been nobodies or they wouldn't have been great players. But I believe they've been, number one, they benefited from the era that they played in a little bit. Number two, this era of basketball, they had a big print on that. They had a big imprint. Now that might mean they didn't run the era. They weren't never the best players in the era, the best player in the era. Maybe they were never top 5 in the era. But they left a big print on the game from when they played or in the time that they played in. That's great. So there. Then tier 4, Step right under that. Great contributors. What do I mean by that? Exactly what I said. They contributed. They were not the guy, but these were guys that were such great contributors to most of the teams or championship teams, whatever you want to say, that they played in, that they deserve to be in. Because in my opinion, if you are a great contributor to multiple winning teams, multiple championship teams, that speaks to something. That's not a coincidence. Now, of course, obviously, you had to have some form of luck to be on great teams, to be on a team that work with you, whatever, or to play with a player that benefits you. Cool, but at the same time, that deserves credit that you contributed greatly to multiple winning teams. Because everybody can't say that. There's a lot of great role players, but every team that a great role player plays on did not win. That doesn't mean they're not a great role player, but there's something to be said about role players that consistently contribute to winning. If you get what I'm saying. So I call them great contributors, and it'll make more sense when we get into who's in that category too. Obviously, category 5. Some of y'all ain't gonna like it, but it's gonna be all right. Category 5 is did not do enough. Let's think about like honorable mentions. And I think that's important that I think the hall should do something like that. Maybe honorable mention. People ain't going to appreciate the honorable mention no way. And you wouldn't either. If you was in the science fair, you did a science project, stayed up all night with your glue and cardboard and whatnot, and you get there and a guy get a first place ribbon, second place ribbon, third place ribbon, and then they hand you that honorable mention, you ain't going to want it for real. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I think that's kind of what the hall got to start doing. And I say that because obviously, like I just said, they're not gonna really appreciate it. They're not gonna really want it. But at least it let guys know, like, hey, we gave you a strong thought and consideration. Because a lot of times, I mean, that kind of gets said when it's like, all right, these are the people that's eligible. Because they always announce who is eligible for a Hall of Fame induction this year. They announce that every year. And then you see the list, and then people like us, we look at the list and be like, this guy, yeah, this guy, maybe, this guy, no. The guy that's this guy, no. The guy we said no to, that is the guy those are the guys that are going to be and did not do enough. So think about it like, you just missed the bar. You just barely, we thought about you. You had strong consideration, honorable mention, didn't do enough. Those are the guys that'll be in that list. Now, there's going to be some guys in here I'm sure we're going to debate on. But those are the 5 tiers that I gave for the Hall of Fame. And I think if the hall had these tier names or whatever you want to call it, if they had something to separate guys, we would feel a lot better about certain people being in, certain people being out. Because then we could look at it like, all right, if we gonna put them in that tier, I understand why they put them there. Instead of certain guys being in, because like what sparked this whole thing with us is certain guys in my life. Well, you got your Michael Jordans, obviously, that's in the hall. It feels strange to say, I'm not going to name no names right now, but it feels strange to say certain guys is in the same Hall of Fame as Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? I know you get what I'm saying too. So that kind of is what sparked the whole thing of like the Hall of Fame needs tiers. Because obviously we regard Michael Jordan as Michael Jordan. But some guys in the same Hall of Fame. They in the same Hall of Fame. So I think the tiers will make us feel better about that. Like, okay, we got Mike, and then we got strong, great contributors. So I think that sums it up pretty good. So what you think about the names?
The names are very interesting. I think that it's very unique too. And I think that it puts your mind in a certain space to think about stuff a certain way now. So now we're not just thinking about, like, of course, like you said, the top tiers, like the GOATs, for lack of better words, like the main people. But I think we can figure out a way to clean up the name a little bit because, like you said, the impact the game part is like, well, this person had a heavy impact on the game. And then, like you said, the culture piece will kind of tweak what people think about it. So, like, this person contributed to the game a very high amount,
But then we start thinking about the culture impact of what they had. And it's like, well, he also had a little bit of a game. I'm thinking about somebody in mind right now. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's game culture. Like he has a little bit of all this. So why is he not in this tier? And then you mentioned the error part, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's where he loses that next piece of like he contributed, but did he have an error? Oh, yeah. You missed the bar there. So now you're in that next group of like you said, pluck him out, put him in any area, that'd be great. And it's like, well, I could see him doing that. I could see him doing 30 points a game in any area, 20 points a game in any. All right, cool. So I think that's a very interesting name to have everybody. And I will say this too, man. I think you said people complain about being honorable mention. I think that we kind of have to like ignore all that because players are gonna complain either way. Like you're gonna have some people like, man, I should have been that second tier. Why you put me in the third tier? I'll be ready in any era. Like, all right, bro, whatever. Like, come on, man.
Just be grateful, big dog. So a lot of guys talking about why I ain't doing enough.
Oh, for sure. That's. I think the only tier that you probably would not get a lot of complaints in is people not being in that first tier. I think that's the only one that you wouldn't hear a lot of complaints because
when you see who in the first tier, it's like, all right, I'm not one of those guys. There's very few people that would even have a gripe to say, hey, hold on, I think I need to be in there with them. There's very few people that's gonna say that. Like 1 every 20 years could probably say that.
Exactly.
So that's just one of them things. But I think there are people, like you said, there's going to be somebody complaining about everything. Like, dang, I'm not an all-time great. Or, dang, I ain't the greatest, one of the greats of my era. I'm just a contributor. It's going to be guys that say all of that. So,
so
I mean,
I think that's the only issue. I think that's the only issue I have with it is like the naming of it. Because then it kind of like puts a certain level of stigma to that thing. It's like, dang, I'm only a contributor. That's how you see me. Like I only contributed to the game. So that's why that's the only thing I'll say I'll poke a hole at. It's like, man, don't be saying call me no contributor. Like, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, I did. That's the only thing.
But the thing about it though, great contributors, part of what gives you that title, you were not the best player on your team, obviously. So what you want me to say? Great Robins to Batman's or something? You know what I mean? Great second best player. Like great 1-2 punch. You know what I mean? Like what you want me to call you? You are a great contributor. That doesn't mean you weren't an all-star. That doesn't mean you weren't all NBA. But when it came down to winning, you were not the best player on your team. You were a great contributor. And even past that, you might not even been the second best player on your team. You could have been a guy that they would not have won without, though. And if you're doing that multiple years, I think that says something. You know what I mean? And like I said, when we actually get into who's in what tier, you'll understand better. I'm sure most people at home probably thinking like you too. But when we get into who's in every tier, you'll be like, okay, I see where you're going. I see what he really mean. That guy is a great contributor because at no point in time will we say certain people was the best player on their team. Most people would, like the people in that list, nobody would say that. But they contributed to winning so much and so often, they deserve to be in the hall. There's something to be said about that because those kind of guys deserve their place too. You know what I mean? It's some guys that was never the best player, but doggone it, if they didn't have them, they'll have 1-2 less championships or whatever you want to say. Might not have none for certain guys if they didn't have these specific guys. So that's kind of what goes into it. So if somebody was to complain about being a great contributor, I think you being a little nitpicky. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna get into it, but yeah.
So you want to go ahead and get into your list, or you want to bring up my tiers and categories?
You go ahead and name your tiers. Like, go ahead and give us your names, and we can get into that, and then we'll start breaking down who goes into what.
All right, so mine is similar to yours. I only have 4 tiers though. I didn't do like the honorable mention stuff because it's either you in or you out. Like
I understand that.
You feel me? So, my first tier, I want to call like the one of ones. And
one of
it's kind of
ones.
like it's the way I think about this is like I get annoyed hearing their names. It's not in a disrespectful way. I get tired of hearing their names over and over again. For one reason is that stop comparing people to them. These are the incomparable hoopers. Like stop. Like I love this player. stop comparing them to them though. Like we have hundreds of players in the game. Stop comparing them to this one. Like Jordan, let Jordan name die for a second. Like stop bringing up people and comparing them to Jordan. Stop comparing them to this player. Stop it. Put their names in like the back of the book for now. Stop using them. Find a different player to use them as a comparison. Stop comparing it to them. And then, like you said, they're the all-time great. I think about it like that. Incomparable ones, stop using the name to bring up with them. And then think about it as like if excluding like the Jordan Kareem stuff, like you can make a strong case for them being the best player of all time. Like if somebody
Right.
said excluding Jordan and Kareem, who could you say was the best player of all time? All these guys, you can have a strong like if we really wanted to have the debate, we could have a whole conversation around each of these guys being the best player. Because you know how the era goes. Like this player ran the 80s, this player ran the 90s, this player ran the 2000s, this player ran so on and so forth. You could have a strong case for them being the best player of all time. Or you could just say, these are the top 10 players in the game, or top 11. You can easily have that. Now, what order you have them in is irrelevant at this point because they're all in that tier. But these are the players I can say like the top 10 to like 12, maybe 15 players of all time. And so that's my first tier. Like these are the one of one. Stop trying to say, oh, he remind me of Magic. Stop it, bro. Stop it. There's one Magic Johnson. Similar. He's in that lineage, but he's not Magic. Stop doing that, bro. Like I love this guy. I got people in mind right now. Yes, he's a tall facilitator and point guard, but he's not Magic. You don't do that. Okay. So these my guys, like leave the name alone. Stop hearing them names. Find other people, stop being lazy. Find somebody to compare them to. My next tier, I want to call them the legends. These are the people who really great. These are the ones you can start comparing people to now. Like you can start making the comparison with these people. They're not the top tier. They're that next tier where they're great. They won championships, so they had a very high impact in the game. They were amazing hoopers, but I can't quite put them in that Jordan category or that Kareem category of like these were the guys. Like you might not have been the best player on your team, but you were really great. Or you're the best player on your team, but you weren't the best player of that era. You weren't the best player. We can't mention you as being the best player of all time. You might even have been the best player in your position. So you probably like the top 5 of your position, top 10 of your position. But that first tier, like they're the first 1 to 2 players in their position. Then you might have like the center probably got like 5 people in that category, but you more than likely you in that top 10 of your category. So these are my legends, my legendary hoopers. Mm-hmm. Third tier is like the classics. I feel like you strong case like this. The classic and legends are not too far apart. Like it's very tough to separate these guys. But you probably were not the best player on your team, or if you were that second or third best player on your team, like a championship winning team or a very good team. So similar to like what you were saying, they had a high impact. They had a very strong case to being like a contributor, for lack of better words. Now they contribute to a winning cause, but I can't put you in that legends category because you weren't carrying as much weight. You weren't contributing as much. Your numbers weren't as great to put you in that next tier. So that's my third tier, the classics. They're great. They real hoopers. My last tier, I decided to call like the impact group. Like they didn't have quite the resume to put you in the classics. These are the people who almost have our heart and their game means so much that we just can't. They're not Hall of Fame caliber completely by their whole resume, but they left a strong impact in the game. They left us like they retired and they're like, oh, we will always remember you. We're gonna miss what you had, miss what you gave us to the game. So you left the impact. You're not the impact of the first 3 tiers because you didn't have the numbers to do this. You didn't have the minutes, opportunities to do all these things. So we definitely gonna have to have you in it. If you wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame basically without this level of the tiers. So it's like, man, you're not Hall of Fame, but I gotta do something for you. So that's why I think the 4th tier comes in for me, the impact tier. So that's my tiers, man. I think it's the one of ones. Stop comparing me to anybody else. Leave my name alone. Only compare me to people in my tier. That's it. Don't compare me to nobody else. Then you got the next tier, the classics. The ones who were probably the best player on the team, but you're not like the top tier. So the first tier is like I'm the best in my position, or like top 3 in my position, most likely. Maybe top 5, depending on the position. Then you got the next tier. It's like I'm not the best in my position, but I'm probably like 3 through 10. The rest of y'all after that, it's like, yeah, I can hoop. I wasn't the best player on my team, or I wasn't the main focus on my team, but I can really hoop. Like, you don't have to respect my name. Like, I can dominate a quarter. I can be the reason we won this game in the finals. I can be the reason we won this game at this level, at this tier, or I can hold my own weight. Like, out of 82 game season, we won 62 games. I don't reason we won like a good 20 of them, maybe 10 to 20 games. I don't reason we won that. The next tier is like, man, we love y'all. We love y'all game. You left the impact. We gonna miss you, but we can't see the game the same after you left. So that's my 4 tiers. It's the one of ones, the legends, the classics, and the impact group.
Okay, I like them. I can already envision a couple guys gonna be in every category. The word classics is kind of throwing me off a little bit because I feel like classics and impact, I think about them kind of similarly. I don't know, because I think when people say classics, first thing come to my mind is like music and movies. Like, oh, this album a classic or this movie is a classic, whatever. And when we say classic, it's usually like people like movies we just love. They're really, really good movies, songs, albums, whatever. So I think of them kind of similarly, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that throws me off a little bit, but I understand more as you explain. But I like it though, man. The impact group going. Me and you gonna disagree about a couple of them. I can already tell. Cause
I'll be real with you. My impact is probably like, let me go look at my list. I only got like 3 people on my list, bro. Like, for real with you. Like, I couldn't think too. I didn't give it too much thought, but like off the rip, I knew three people. They're not Hall of Fame, but when you think about it, it's like, oh, they did kind of like leave an impact. Like,
yeah,
impact
for sure.
is a name that I just keep thinking about. So I only got 3 people off the top of my mind. Of course, it's gonna be more, but off the rip, it's like these 3 people have to be in that category for me personally.
Nah, I get that. I understand that for sure. So I think a lot of the guys in your impact group gonna be in my greats of an era group, and then some of them probably might be, because I mean we got 5 tiers. I got 5 tiers. You got 4, so obviously they're gonna be separated somewhere. But I think a lot of the guys in my greats of an era and great contributors gonna be fluctuating right there. That's where they're gonna be at on your category. And this is good though, because now we can, like, since I got more people on I think I got at least 5 or 6 on each level. And some got more than others, as they should. Yeah. So once I do my names and you do your names, we can see, like, all right, if I took that guy, I would put him here or whatever. I know we're gonna have some of the same people anyway too though, but like, it'll be good, man. I think it's gonna be fun.
All right, and then one more thing we talked about before that we have separated in is I kept mine as all people who are retired. So I have no current players in mind. I can throw in current players. Like, I have an idea of what these players are going to be. It's not that hard to do, but
right.
I try to keep mine. I try not to speak on current players post-career stuff, like where they rank and everything. We do have a conversation, but I try not to get too heavily into stuff because you never know. Something might swing them one way or another. Somebody wins a ring, and it's like, now we put them in a different category, but to be real with you, I already had them in that tier, so it doesn't change as much. But for the most part, I try to keep mine in like players who are retired. So, and you got some that are current players in yours, but I think that's the only real difference that we have in our list.
Yeah, I definitely got some guys that are currently playing, and the ones that I put in there is not no guys like you'll see, but the guys I put in there that are currently playing, I feel like if they retire today, this is where they'll be. Let's preface that. Like, all right, if they called it tomorrow, like, yeah, this is it for me. This is where they'll land for me. So, but I think throwing current players in there is better. It helps better see, like, all right, this what kind of what he going for. You know what I mean? Because I want to throw guys in there that younger guys, people our age and younger, could kind of be like, all right, they didn't see so and so play, but I know this guy, and if he in there, then that makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of why I sprinkled a couple of them in there, and it's at least one in every level too. So it worked out pretty good. Yeah. But you ready, man? You ready to get into it? I'm ready. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got to throw this out there too, just for the old heads don't get any feelings and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We kept it like we had to do a cutoff. We can't do John Havlicek and Bob Cousy and like we love them, respect, but it's like, come on, bro. Like, we're not 30 yet. We didn't we didn't see all these people. So we had a relatively strong cutoff, like 80s, a little bit of 70s. I know I got some 70s in mind, but mainly 80s and down. So no disrespect to anybody before that time, but just like, listen, we're younger. We didn't grow up watching them, so we had to have some level of cutoff for our list. So you're gonna see some names missing. We're not saying they were plumbers and they couldn't play. We're not saying they couldn't hoop. But from our perspective, what we watch and what we understand, we know who fits in these categories better based off what we've seen. So had to throw that little clarification out there for the old OGs that might be listening. Like, hey, we're not trying to throw shade at y'all, say y'all can't hoop. And I say we done with the 90s, like, that little trend that's going on. We respect y'all. But we just know from what we've seen, we can categorize this better from what we saw. So I throw that out there for, that people listen. But continue on, man. I want to hear who's in your list, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for throwing that out there, Austin. And number one, we gonna hopefully we'll be able to put the actual tier list up for y'all to see. I want to preface also the order of the pictures does not mean anything. They're not in any particular order. This is just simply putting them on a tier because the people be like, "Why you got him in front of him?" I'm like, nah, bro.
Yeah.
They just on there. They in the tiers. So
it's a round table, bro.
Everybody's
Everybody's sitting at the table.
Everybody's sitting at the table.
It's a round table. All right.
Because boy, y'all be quick to point that out. Stuff like that, any little thing, but it's like, man, why you put him in front of him? Like, no, bro. They just in the same tier. But all right, so do you want to start at the top or the bottom? Because I go either way. However you want to do it. You want to start at the change the game or the did not do enough?
Let's go top to bottom because it feels easy to kind of separate from that because the bottom from top can get kind of messy. Let's go top to bottom.
Cool. So in the upper echelon, change the game. That as my partner said, the 101s, cue the Gunna music. These are the best of the best. And they pretty obvious. I know y'all already probably thinking about who's in there. You got your Michael Jordans, your Magic Johnsons, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James, Steph Curry. Those are the guys I threw in to change the game. These guys are an era of basketball. So obviously Mike, we got to throw Mike in there. We already know what Mike did. Then we got Magic. Magic ran the 80s going into the 90s. I know some of y'all gonna be like, oh, if you gonna put, you know how you be. You're gonna put Magic in there, you gotta put Bird in there. I felt as though Magic did a little more than Bird. I wanted to throw Bird in there. I debated on it back and forth, but I said, man, when I look at the resumes, I get Magic had Kareem and stuff like that at the gate of his career. But just looking at some of the stuff Magic did, especially at a young age, the resume, I think it's a little bit better. I think he changed the game. The tall point guard literally changed the game. All that great stuff. Threw him in there over Bird. I hate to say it. Kobe, the early 2000s into the 2010s. Obviously, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. Some people going to look at that and be like, oh, you put Kobe in there. Why not put Shaq? I don't put Shaq because I feel as though Shaq had a time, obviously. But I don't think Shaq ran an era like why we think about with some of these other guys. Shaq had a window with Shaq and Kobe, them 3 years. Then he got one with Wade. After that, Shaq started bouncing around the league. I feel as though I cannot give Shaq that change the game title over Kobe or in there with Kobe because of stuff like that. And Kobe said it. If Shaq would have, worked out, would have did a little more, would not been as lazy, stuff like that, he might would have been in there. Probably ain't no Mike. He would have been in there. But just seeing the whole totality and stuff, I got to go Kobe in there. I didn't throw Shaq in there. Kareem is Kareem. Most MVPs all time. You know what he did. You know what I mean? Arguably top 3 player all time. You can't tell the story of basketball without Kareem. Skyhook, all that good stuff, changed the game. Kareem. Bron is Bron. We know top 2 player all time. Whatever you want to throw him in there. All time leading scorer. 4 MVPs. Changed the game. Big guard, big point, guard all 5 positions. Whatever you want to do. And ain't another LeBron. Then Steph Curry. Steph and Bron ran an era of basketball. It's got similar to Magic and Bird. I get it. But Bron, 4 championships, Steph, 4 championships. So an era of basketball was ran by them two. Like, there was a point in time nobody was seeing a ring but them. The Spurs snuck one in there before they got started. But ever since then, I mean, before that, it was Bron or Steph Curry every year. And I'm glad Steph got him a finals MVP. That kind of pushed him over the top to change the game. You know what I mean? Because before he didn't have that. So he was on his way to being an all-time great. Then they stole another one. They got another one on the tail end. And so I think he deserved to be in there at this point in time. And obviously, like we said, there's going to be guys that's not on the list. That doesn't mean they don't need to be on the list. I'm not going to make a tier list of everybody in the Hall of Fame. There's too many people. If y'all want to see something, ask me. Like, hey, what about so-and-so? Would you put him there? Where would you put so-and-so? You can ask me that, but I'm not putting every single person in here. But yeah, so what you think, man? Is there any name so far that you disagree with?
So I thought I was gonna be the one who was a little more stringent on the people who deserve to be here. But obviously, it's you. So I got double that. So
all right, bro.
It's like Outkast, bro. I can't have one without the other. I can't talk about Andre without having Big Boy. I can't talk about Magic without having Bird. That's just how I feel about it. Because that's like every time Magic said it himself, he was like, there are times where I'm kind of doing my thing, kind of caught in emotion. He's like, what's that boy over there in Boston? What's that boy in Green doing? I had 30-point triple-double. Bet. Go put on some work tonight. And go do his thing. You're going to have a 30, 20, and 15 rebound game. All right, Bird, bet. Just because you had your little 30-point triple-double, I'm going to have a 30, 20, and 10. Like, dang, bro. All right. So I think because it was that yin and yang with them, it's that 1-2 punch of the East Coast, West Coast, what they meant. Like you talk about change the game. Bird and Magic together changed the game of what that meant for the 80s. It led the way to what Mike could do in the 90s. So I can't have Magic without having Bird. Like whether that's culturally or on the court. Like name somebody who's like Bird since we've seen him. You can't throw too many. It's probably like 3 people you can really like honestly mention that's like close to being Bird. Like 3. Which is why I put him in a 1 of 1 tier. That's why he's in my first tier. Same thing with Kobe and Shaq. Like I can't talk about impact of the game or changing the game at that caliber and not mention most physically dominant force. Period. Like I can't do that. You're talking about change the game, literally change the rules of the game, change the way the game was played because I'm not going to play the 5. Shaq playing the 5. So KG, Dirk, sometimes Tim Duncan. That's where you get the Kristaps Porzingis and everybody coming off after that is playing more 4 versus 5. So I can't have a list saying change the game and not mention Shaq. That's just kind of like asinine at that point. It's like, bro, come on, man. Change the game. You don't have him. And I get the era, the thing. He didn't necessarily have an era. But out of the 3 things you need to qualify to have it, he has strong 2. And so I don't think, and this could be a hot topic, I don't think we get Kobe the same way if we don't have Shaq. So you can't have Shaq without having Kobe. You don't get Kobe without having Shaq. So I think that's the same thing with 1-2 punch of like Magic and Bird, Kobe and Shaq. So I think Shaq probably could have got one in them 2000s. And one of them first 3, he might have got one of them 3. But he for sure does not get 3 in a row without Kobe. So that's why I think it's a 1-2 punch of those 2 have to be together. So trying out my first list, of course, Jordan, of course, Kobe. Who else? You said Kareem. I obviously got to throw him in there. And Magic. And I threw Bird in there. I threw Shaq in there. I threw Tim Duncan in this list too. Tim Duncan is talked about as being the best 4-man ever. He had an era where it was like every other year that was like, what was it? 05, 07, and I think 09. They had them 3 championships every other year, something like that.
Yep.
So arguably, you could argue whose era that was, early 2000s. You could say it's the Kobe and Shaq era, the Tim Duncan era. You could say they shared the era like you did with Curry and Bron. So I feel like Tim Duncan deserves to be in that list in category 2. I think you don't compare nobody to Tim Duncan. Leave his name alone. We ain't doing that. And then the only other person I would throw in there of retired players would be Dream. We have not seen another Dream, and I don't think we will see another Dream. We seen replicas of him, but for him to be as dominant on both ends of the floor is what separates him too. So outside of Jordan, Hakeem in the 90s too. Like it was Hakeem Olajuwon show. It was Jordan, Dream, and then Jordan again. So that's where it's like I gotta put some level of respect in there with him. People try to say, "Oh, he wouldn't have got there with Jordan playing." Bro, shut up. We're not gonna have that conversation. He did it. So what we gonna say now? So out of everybody else in the league, everybody else had an opportunity to take them rings. He did it, and he won back to back. So what are you gonna say now? So that's why I put a level of respect on his name. And then of course the Dream Shake, everything he did to the game. So that's why I put him in there. And he's probably the only person we could have the conversation about not being in that tier. That's the only person I would debate about not putting in that tier of like the one-on-ones and comparable. But I think he's in there. And the only change I would have of current players, I'll throw KD in there too. I think KD's in that conversation of the most one-of-ones, a dominant force. He didn't have an era. He wasn't as prominent as the first two. But you can't sit here and talk to me about not changing the game or changing the game and not have KD. How many hoopers are now playing the game the way they play because of KD? How many 7-footers you see now trying to have a bag and they're replicating what KD did? So that's what it changed the game. Things like once you put him in there, it's like a ripple effect of what he did. Like it was a straight line. And he came in and like he caused a whole different ripple effect from what his name does. So you put KD there, you probably don't get the Kristaps Porzingis. Like he's probably like it was Shaq that interrupted the game. A ripple effect come down. It's like KD did the same similar thing of like the bigs change how they played, trying to be more like KD. So like man, I got to be more of a outside threat from the paint because Shaq is in there. But now I'm going to change my game even further back. Now I'm doing 3-point game. So now you're seeing 7-footers playing the 3 position. KD was the first to do that. So that's why I got to put KD in the conversation of the Currys and Bruns. For me personally, I think he deserves to be in there because like he might not have the rings and the accolades and everything that's the same category of dominance that the first two have. We're talking about changing the game and impacting the game at that tier. I think he has to be in there. So the only change I would have is Tim Duncan, Dream, Bird, Shaq, and then KD for the current players.
I disagree, brother. I just can't like when I say change the game, I'm not meaning on a impact on the culture, like I mentioned earlier. I'm not talking about cultural impact. I'm talking about how did you come into the game and affect what was going on? Feel what I'm saying? I don't think KD did enough to be in that level. Bron come in, he the best player in the world. Eventually, we think about him being the greatest ever. Mike come in, best player in the world. Magic come in, best player in the world. Cole come in, not at first the best player in the world, but eventually became the best player in the world. Got everybody looking at him for skill. That type of best player in the world. Kareem, best player in the world. Steph, maybe not the best player in the world playing next to Bron, playing with Bron, but beat Bron in the finals several times. Now, granted, teams, KD got it. He super team stacked. I can't take it away from him, though. He done won 4 championships, then won one without KD with the same original nucleus that they had. 73 win teams, first unanimous MVP. I can't take stuff like that away from Steph. You know what I mean? So 3-point, the shooting, the records, all that good stuff. That's when I saw about changing the game. When you come in and change what we doing right now. Like, all right, I'm in here now. It's me and everybody else. That's how I look at it. I'm not just talking about impact. Like, KD, of course, had an impact. Shaq, of course. All these guys had an impact on the game. But if we talking about when they set foot in the league, they changed the game, I only want to throw these guys in there. So I understand what you're saying, too, though. I'm not trying to say these guys like don't deserve to be in, obviously. But if we talking about this tier, I can't throw them in there, unfortunately.
All right, so let's use another word besides change the game, because maybe that's what I'm getting caught on.
We might need a new title.
Because like I see that as they change the game. Because if you interview players of like who could you play like or who do you play like, KD's gonna be mentioned
A lot.
a
Not a
third
lot.
of the time. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of players to be like, I tried to play like KD. I'm a taller player. I want to be like KD. If you ask them when they were in high school, who would you want to play like? KD's on that list. If you're a taller guy, like say you like 6'6" and up, like every guy that's about 6'6" and up wanted to play like KD. The smoothness he had to be able to be like, oh, I can pull the ball down the floor by myself, get in my bag, be a long guy and get buckets like that. KD's one of them guys you mentioned as the player I want to play like. Now, Tim Duncan, nobody want to play like Tim Duncan, to be honest with you. Honestly, nobody. But most players don't want to play like Tim Duncan. But you got to respect his name and his game. Like, you have to. Like, he's the best four-man, period. Like, it's like, for him to be head and shoulders above people says something about his game. Because for a while, it was Chuck. He had the thing, and people could argue Carl. But then it's like, Tim Duncan came in, it's like, oh, it's him. And, like, we respect KG, we respect She, we respect Dirk, all these other guys. But it's like, Tim Duncan is in a tier his own when we talk about power forwards. And it's like everybody else came second. And him to do that is respectable for me to say, okay, you had an era, early 2000s to like mid 2000s maybe. You can sprinkle in a little bit of late, pushing 2010s. But that was like the Tim Duncan run that he had of like being the guy for that part. Now, the champions don't reflect that, and the quote-unquote dominants don't reflect that because he wasn't like a force to be reckoned with like that. And you can question whether the Spurs system had him doing that or if the Spurs helped him and he with the Spurs, then goes hand in hand, whatever. But you can't have this level of dominance without being such a great player. So that's why I got to throw him in there. And Shaq, he literally changed the game, bro. And that culture is like he put his thumbprint in. It's like the game of basketball will not be played the same because of me. And you can't name nobody else that played the game like me at this level. So that's why I have to put them in. It's not me saying culturally why. So I think we got to figure out something else besides change the game.
Well,
That's what we getting stuck on.
What if we call the eras like these are guys that an era could possibly be named after? There's the Jordan era, Magic and Bird. I would probably have to throw Bird in there if we called it that. But it was a Magic and Bird era. There's a Kobe era. Because I don't think, like I said, I don't believe Shaq ran an era. I think Shaq had a small window. Because if you think about it, Shaq was Shaq for a long time. Obviously, don't get me wrong. In the grand scheme of things, that's a long time for how dominant he was. But let's think about it. Them three Lakers championships, 2000, 01, 02. And then they lose in 03, correct? Or is that right?
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
And then they lose in 03 to the Pistons. That's dominance now. 4 good years, that's dominance. Shaq leave. He go to Miami. They win in 06. After that, what's going on with Shaq? So we talking about 5 years or 6 years from 2000 to 2006. But can we really count 2006? Because that ain't even as good as Lakers Shaq was. He was kind of exiting his prime. D-Wade was the guy. It was D-Wade's team. So 6 years of, and then, I mean, obviously Orlando, he was still the guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ignoring what he did in Orlando at all. He made a finals run in Orlando too. Got pieced up by Dream and them though. Feel me? Got pieced up. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So we talking about a good 6-7 years. Shaq was like Shaq, Diesel, Superman. Feel me? But when we talk about these other guys in this list, they did more in they window, if that makes sense. Mike, 6 championships, all that good stuff. 5 MVPs, got me. Magic, 5 championships. Kobe, 5 championships, did more than Shaq in his window. Got more championships than Shaq. Got 2 without him. They got 3 together. Granted, got 3 together. Shaq was the better player for them 3. With Kobe on the team, Shaq was definitely the better player. I would never argue against that. And y'all know I done had my times talk about Kobe and what you know what I mean, how I feel about Kobe. 2 championships without Shaq, where he's the best player, and without a player equal to what Shaq was, don't be Kobe in there over him. That's a long window. of Kobe being a championship caliber player. Feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Kareem, 6 MVPs, best player from like the late 70s into the 80s. Like Magic and Bird took the baton from him. So Kareem was running things. So it's one of them things, man. Of course, I understand what Shaq did. Of course, I understand what Bird did. But I'm not going to say they ran in error. It just wasn't enough in the window that they had of their prime, whatever you want to say. So, in my opinion, obviously, in my humble opinion, but it's okay though, B, because I got you right here. In the next tier, we got the all-time greats. We got the all-time greats in the next tier. Popping it off, we got Hakeem Olajuwon. 2 championships, probably the greatest defensive player, two-way player ever. Got to throw him in all-time great. I believe he's great in whatever era he plays in. It's the skill set, the defense needed in any era. You got your Shaq. Shaq, all-time great. Any era I drop him in, he going to be Shaq. He going to be Diesel. He going to be unstoppable. Tim Duncan, all-time great. I feel like Tim, one of them guys, you put him in any era, he going to play the exact same, and he going to still be unstoppable. He's just one of them guys. He can do that. So, Tim, KD, one of them guys. Like his accolades might not be the same as some of the other guys. Only 2 championships, only 1 MVP. But the scoring titles, the scoring ability, there's no doubt in anybody's mind. KD is one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest scorers of all time. And if you drop him in any era, he gonna still be that. Feel me? Bird just I feel like if Bird would have been the guy with 5 championships instead of Magic, I would have had Bird in the next tier. I feel, and granted, Bird did not have a Kareem. Let's throw that in there too. So that's unfortunate, but Bird still had one of the best teams of all time. Them 86 Celtics, one of the best teams you'll ever find. They literally on the short list of greatest teams ever. But Magic got more rings. So that's why Magic is a little bit above him, in my opinion. Now, could they be in there hand in hand? I wouldn't be mad at that. But as for right now, he in the all-time greats list. After Bird, we got Dwayne Wade. Played in the same era as Kobe. And probably definitively the second best shooting guard of the era. So if Kobe Bryant did not exist, I think we look at Dwayne Wade in a very different light. Because Kobe overshadows him in that 2-guard spot. But Wade, definitely one of the all-time greats. I believe Wade can play in any era of basketball also. I believe Wade's defense is underrated among a lot of people. And also LeBron coming to play with him. You know, obviously, Bron is the guy. And it makes it hard for us to look at Wade like, oh, dang, he was one of the all-time greats. I think he gets underrated in that aspect because Bron came and it's Bron's team, obviously. But Wade is still one of the all-time greats, in my opinion. Next, we got Isaiah Thomas. Obviously, 2 championships. Beat Mike. Beat Bird. Beat Magic. The guys that's in these tiers, he beat them for championships. Got to throw IT in there, man. He's one of them guys, like, I feel like he can do it all. I feel like he can do it in any era. What he did for his team is everybody don't do that. Next, we got KG. Of course, I'm a little biased. I think KG might have been the best power forward ever if he was on the Spurs and Tim was on the Timberwolves. I also think we look at him differently if KG would have got out of Minnesota sooner. Because, you know, he played in Minnesota so long, got there. I mean, obviously, he trying to stay loyal. He pulled a Dame Lillard. Love Minnesota, trying to make it happen. As time went on, he like, man, I think I got to go. I want to win. They shipped my man to Boston. They win right away. Granted, it's only 1 ring, but he still got the individual accolades, the defensive player of the year, the all defensive teams, all that good stuff. There's not too many KGs out here. And then last, we got Charles Barkley. No rings, MVP, though. One of the best power forwards of all time also. went toe to toe with Jordan, played on the Dream Team, and won MVP. I think that's an underrated part of Charles's career. Playing on the Dream Team and winning MVP. It might play on the Dream Team and won MVP, but I might won MVP. Chuck being on the Dream Team winning MVP says a lot about what Chuck could do and who he was as a player. And I think he deserves a little more credit even without the ring. So he's still an all-time great. I feel like he could play in any era with his skill set, his size, his athleticism. Give me Chuck in any era of basketball, I think he's getting off. So those are the all-time greats that I have listed. Obviously, there's more probably, but I threw them all in there.
Progress is not about perfection and being perfect. It's about making growth no matter what. It's about pushing yourself to the limit and beyond those limits. Every challenge that comes your way, you're overcoming them. And it's about striving to become more and doing more. Every single step, every single day, every single dribble is a victory. You've won as long as you're making progress. Because progress is the only goal. So invest into that progress, invest into that dream. Get yourself a reminder that progress is the only goal. So of course I agree with your list. Besides the people I have in my first tier, so
Right.
I agree with that. And the only thing I do is probably add more to it. So I got Isaiah. I would probably add Karl Malone out of respect for him being the second all-time scoring leader for so long. So it's like,
Valid.
and we had the conversation about the best power forwards. It was him and Chuck for a long time. So I got to throw him in that list. I got to throw Dirk in there. I think he put up a good enough fight, and he won a ring by himself in an era of super teams.
Be Bron in them.
So it's like, I gotta knock him in that category. AI is in that conversation for me. The second tier guys of yes,
AI in the all-time greats category.
yes.
B.
We
I
not
don't
finna
know,
disrespect
B.
Allen Iverson, bro. We not finna disrespect Allen Iverson, bro.
I don't want to disrespect Allen Iverson, but the all-time greats, I don't know.
This is
I
my
don't know.
legends list. This is my legends list.
Okay, it is different for you, obviously, with the legends. I do consider him a legend, but go. Hey man, I'm gonna let you have it. Go ahead.
Listen. I'm throwing AI in this list because here's another thing too. This is probably a whole nother episode. Is that I try not to put as much stock in rings because that can. It's kind of like a lazy thing we do. It's like, oh, he won 6 rings, so he's the GOAT. Oh, he didn't win in the ring, so we're gonna throw him over here. But if we remove the ring from the conversation and we look at what they can do or what they did, we look at a lot of players totally different. It's like the Tim Duncan versus KG thing, right? We automatically throw Tim as the best power forward, but like you just said, we can really go toe to toe on who's the better power forward. Like we can argue like a strong argument, and I wouldn't be mad at you either way. Like if we remove the 5 rings and move the 1 ring and just said we're playing 1-on-1 or we're starting a team, who you building around? And we asked 11 people, it's going to be 7 people going one way or 7 people going the other way, or 6 people going one way, 6 people going the other way. It's not going to be like a easy 8, 9, 10, 11 pick. Like it's going to be like a real strong neck to neck thing for them. So that's why I feel like we got to throw Dirk in that conversation too, because he would skew the number some too. Like some people like, yeah, let me get Dirk. Spread the floor like he can. Offensive threat, like he's probably the best offensive player out of these 3. You can have that conversation. So I'll throw Dirk in that conversation. And when it comes to AI, forget, like you said, forget the culture impact stuff. Like forget the movement he had about the braids and the tattoos and everything he meant to the culture. We're not even talking about that. As a hooper, I cannot sit here and talk about, like you said, an impact of the game of that caliber to say we can't mention the game without mentioning Allen Iverson. All right. He's a legend for what he did in 2001. He's a legend for what he did carrying that team of all teams to win a sneaker game in there against your what you call like your GOAT tier level player, and then somebody else in your next tier. So he snuck one against them too. I gotta throw him in the conversation. I have to. He's a legend for me. So now, if he would have stayed healthier, of course, we would have seen more from him. If it would have been different situations, of course, we would have seen more from him. But for what he actually did, I still consider him a legend. So I got to put a little AI Dirk in there. I agree with you on D Wade, and then I got to throw Steve Nash in there. I think he's a legend in the game for what he did. He didn't revolutionize the game as much from his individual standpoint, but if we're being honest, if Steve Nash would have came up in this era, we look at him totally different. We look at him totally differently because he was held back for the thought process of being a pass first point guard. But you hear how they talk about it, it's like, bruh, Steve Nash really wanted to go, he's dropping 30 every night, and you're not stopping him. If we really want to talk about Steve Nash, they talking about him as the best shooter of all time. Like, love what Curry doing from the range he has. I'm talking about from the ball leaving my hands to going to the rim, probably the best shooter of all time. That's what people saying from his era. So I'm like, oh, snap. I got to put more respect on his name. So Nash for me is a legend. And then I got a couple other people who borderline classic and legend people. So I'm going to save them for later.
Right.
But I think those guys I have to add in that conversation where we're talking about Karl Malone, Dirk, AI, and Nash. Probably the only people I add to your list.
I'm good with Karl Malone. I didn't put him on none of my tiers just because, like, I just didn't. I didn't add him in there. But I would think Karl Malone probably go in there. Dirk is debatable. I would probably put him in the next tier under that. Same with AI. Honestly, Steve Nash, I can kind of go for 2 MVPs in the era that he played in. I can kind of go for that, but no rings. Also, kind of made me want to throw him in the tier just below. So it's debatable, but I ain't mad.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me too is that I kind of excluded rings from the conversation. I mean, it matters, but I don't put as much weight into it because you look at somebody like you said with KG versus Tim Duncan. It's like, well, 1 to 5, he's obviously better, but like, come on, bro, like strip that away. Who are you picking? You're drafting a team, and you're building around this guy. You start at the 4 position. Who you picking? It's not that blowout conversation that we're having. So I don't think Nash. The reason why Nash in the second tier because I think once again you remove the ring conversation away from this. He's probably a top 5 point guard. And I got somebody else like you gonna talk about current players. I'll probably throw Chris Paul in this conversation of like he'll be a legend for me. I think he'll be in this fit for me of like he can really like if you swap the ring conversation around like give Chris Paul Curry's rings, people look at him totally differently. So why do the rings? See what I mean? That's why the rings matter that much. So I try to strip the ring conversation out of this and look at them as a player, what they did, and so on and so forth. So that's somebody I would throw in this conversation of current players. But I would.
So
AI and Tim, AI and Dirk are the ones we can have a conversation around. I don't feel like we can talk about the other people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can go for that a little bit. I would say I can't discredit rings though, not too much. I get what you're saying. It's a team accomplishment. Obviously, you need a team. It's not an individual thing. But the thing is, we play to win the game. So that's the ultimate goal. We play to win. Who contributed most to winning? And the guys who won championships obviously contributed a great deal. The ones who were the guys obviously contributed a great deal. It's a reason certain guys won multiple championships because everybody didn't. Everybody ain't got more than one. Some folks ain't got none. So it's a reason certain guys win multiple. Obviously, like I said, I'm not unaware of the fact you got to have a good team. Your management got to keep a good team. They got to keep the core together. What the Warriors did for Steph, everybody didn't get that. Everybody didn't get Klay Thompson and Draymond to stick around for their whole career. Some like case in point, Russ, KD, and James Harden. Management said we can't afford to keep all of y'all. They decided to keep Serge Ibaka instead of James because they already got Russ and KD. They don't think they need another guard, or especially one that scores, another scoring guard. They let James walk. Had they kept James instead of Serge, who knows? But they let James walk. That's 3 MVPs. Everybody don't get the Warriors treatment. You know what I mean? So I understand that. But it's a reason certain guys got more than one or are winning consistently. And it's a reason certain guys won and then they stopped winning. You know what I'm saying? So I can't discredit rings. You know what I mean? It means something. We play to win the game at the end of the day. I as a player who ain't won a championship on no level, we play to win the game. So I'm not gonna discredit that. But
I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but I'm saying it's like it's hard to have this conversation it's hard for me to have a individual conversation but weigh so heavily on a team thing because like you said, like I keep pointing these players up because it just fits the conversation the best. It's like Tim Duncan versus KG. KG had no consistent coach. I don't think he had any consistent teammates when he was in Minnesota. But if you flip him and get him, let's say you throw him who was a stable coach back in the day besides Pop? Like you put him
Rivers.
before that time.
Pat Riley.
You throw him with Pat Riley. You trying to tell me he don't still win them rings away? You put him with Phil Jackson. He's probably the other tier. Like you put him with Phil Jackson. You trying to tell me he don't win more rings in that era? So that's what I'm saying. Like you can't sit here and strip that. You can't strip KG down so far when his system around him every year is so different from what Tim Duncan had. So we looking at player for player who did what in these moments and changed the game and had these other accolades like throwing them. I can't weigh rings as heavy because now we're talking about Hall of Fame of what you did. Not the Hall of Fame of what your team did with you. We're talking about what you did as a player. So that's where I'll categorize him a little bit differently, or somebody like a Steve Nash a little bit different, somebody like a Chris Paul a little bit differently. Because like you said, obviously, if you put Chris Paul with a bet, and you got to think about young Chris Paul too. He was with the Hornets, could have won an MVP. Gave the Spurs a run for their money when that was like prime Tim Duncan in them too. LeBron got swept by that team that he almost beat by himself. Think about it like that. So that says something. And then you think about LA Chris Paul. This man ruined the league. And he didn't even do anything. Everybody's doing finna throw a fit if he played with Kobe. Everybody, man, get him off. David Stern said, "No, sir, we are not doing that. Stay your butt over there. We not doing that, bro." So that's a level of respect that Chris Paul had to the league, and he wasn't even like fully Chris Paul yet. So that's what somebody is like. Okay, you can really hoop and you can really ball out, but because you don't have rings, I can't say player for player you're not as great as this other player over here. Like him and Curry can honestly go head to head for who's the better player. Now, if we strip rings away, I'll say that. Now, impact and stuff, Curry's better. Like, we're not going to sit here and debate about that. He's left a bigger impact on the game. But you can't tell me a Chris Paul with let's say 2 rings, maybe 3. We look at him totally different than we do right now. Totally different. But all that changed was he finally got over that last hurdle of winning the ring. But who was to say if he went with Kobe, he would have won them too? Who was to say if he would have moved early to a different team or the Hornets did a better job of managing the team, we got another ring in sooner? That's where it's like, I got to put more respect on KJ. Got to put more respect on Chris Paul versus just the ring conversation taking over their career. Like, well, he only won 1, so I'm putting him in this tier. Oh, he didn't win any, so he's trash. Like, come on, bro. He can hoop. Like, don't do that with me. So that's where it's like, I can't put as much on rings as most people do.
I totally understand that. So, but, and this is the last thing I say, and then we can move on. But all the thing is, this is something I look at that where it helps me increase the weight of rings. When you look at the guys in the top tier in the upper echelon, what is the difference between them and the next guys? Longevity of winning. And things change over time. Now, some of them, like Mike, still got Scotty. Obviously, still had Clay and Draymond. Like they kept the nucleus of what wins. But when I look at Mike in the league for several years, everybody already know how dominant he is. They talking about him. They already know how good he is. He finally gets Scottie Pippen and those guys. They get over the hump. 3 straight championships. Then Mike leaves, comes back 3 more. The team's slightly different now. Scotty's still there, obviously. The team different though. But 3 more championships. I look at Cole. Cole play with Shaq out the gate. He come up 3 championships with Shaq. Obviously, he ain't the best player. I get that. Shaq leaves. It's Kobe's team. Shaq left in 05, and Kobe is Kobe's team. Now, granted, they went through some rough years, but Cole was dominant. And we know, we looking at Cole like he the best player in the world. We remember Cole tearing the league up at that point in time. Until he get the help, he get Powell, he get Derek Fisher, get those guys. They win 2 more rings back to back. Things change. I look at Magic. Magic coming to the league, he got Kareem. They win the championship his rookie year, out the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And he go with Kareem, he keep winning. Kareem retires, he's still winning. People don't realize that all of Magic's championships was not with Kareem. He still win. Things change. Bron, 3 championships, they won championships for 3 different franchises. You get what I'm saying? Steph, Draymond and them ain't Draymond old. You know what I'm saying? Clay is still Clay, but their first championship was 2015. The last one was in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, or 2022.
22.
It was 22 because the Bucks won in 21. So you talking about 2015, won 1, lost in 2016. KD come, win 17-18. KD leave. 2019, Steph hurt. 2020, they didn't make the playoffs. They in the bubble. 2021, they lose. 2022, Steph with Clay and Draymond still there. Draymond ain't as good as he used to be. With Wiggins, Poole, these the new key players. They win another one. Things change. You know what I'm saying? And so I just cannot discredit that because everybody cannot do that. Everybody cannot do that. Chris had Blake, had DeAndre Jordan, had Jamal Crawford, 6th man of the year, had JJ Redick, one of the best shooters of all time. Things ain't go right. Does that mean he ain't no great player? No. But some guys made it happen. Others didn't. It just works out that way. Of course, CP got injuries and stuff. That happened a lot of times in the playoffs, but doggone it, man. The best ability is availability. I cannot sit here and say, I still think he's better than him. If you ain't getting the job done consistently, I don't know. I'm glad Chris did go to the finals with the Suns, though, that one year in 2021. And I wouldn't have been mad if they won the championship. But I am happy that my boy Giannis did win it, though, obviously. But some guys get it done, some guys don't. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. KD played with the Warriors, got him 2 rings, ain't been back to the finals since. Was he close with the Nets? Yes. But he done had some good teams. Just hadn't gotten back, man. Some guys get it done, some guys don't. That's not to say they're not good, they're not great. They just didn't get it the ultimate job done. So I feel as though the guys who get it done should be respected a little bit more. The guys who couldn't, obviously, I'm going to look at your situation. I ain't just going to say, oh, well, talent-wise, he better. There's something he didn't do. It's still a team sport, obviously. But something could have been done, obviously, to get them over the top. You deal what I'm saying? I think that Tim could be in that change the game era because of his longevity of winning. Things change with Tim. You come in, you got David Robinson. Then you get Tony Parker. Then Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard. He could have been in there with his longevity of winning. But only reason I keep him in the all-time greats thing is because his individual accolades. He only got 1 MVP, I think. He got 1 DPOY. Obviously, he got a lot of all-NBAs, all defensive teams. One of the best players of all time. Obviously, I just keep him in that all-time great situation because of that, mainly. But the longevity of winning, man, things change over time. We still winning because of you. You the only constant. That's speaking about something. That says something, in my humble opinion.
For the sake of this episode and moving on to it, because I still disagree. So for the sake of this episode, we're gonna move on to the next tier. So
okay, brother, I understand. We might have to have a whole nother episode about that.
All right, what's your third tier looking like, man?
All right, this is the greats of the era. These are the greatest players of their era. Nah, that's not to say I don't believe you dropped them in a different era, they wouldn't be great. I just think part of that is they benefited from the era that they played in. They were not the best of the era. They probably were never the best player in the world, things like that. So I'll keep you in the greats of the era. So we acknowledge that in the time you played, you was one of the best players, but you're not one of the best players of all time, if that makes sense. You one of the best players of all time in the grand scheme of things, but you're not in that upper echelon. And I hate to say that, but that's kind of how it goes. And obviously, this is going to predicate a lot to who won rings, too. First up on the list is none other than James Harden. I think James Harden embodies this. He's a great of our era of basketball. This era, one of the greatest scorers, but he's not getting the job done. So, of course, he's still a great player, still one of the greatest players. I keep him in the greatest of this era, though. Benefited from this era. Carmelo Anthony, Clyde Drexler, Dwight Howard, David Robinson, Paul Pierce, Allen Iverson, Scottie Pippen, and Patrick Ewing. Now, there's a lot of other guys that could go in here. Obviously, I just kept it limited, but I wanted to give a wide variation of years and eras to show who really is in here.
I agree with everybody on the list. I wouldn't move them anywhere. Besides people I got in other categories, of course. But
right.
Like I said, AI is the one who's debatable for me. So I'm not. That's why I said the legends and classics for me. That's why I got them named. Like it's a couple guys that I could push up, a couple guys I could push down. But who you have in there, I stand beside that list.
I was looking for my charge. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm thinking. So okay, Trace McGrady. Where does he fit for you?
I would probably keep him in that all-time greats list because of his scoring and his injuries is what keep him out of it. I would say he probably, in all honesty, I would say Tracy McGrady is this close to not being in the Hall because he didn't have the longevity. But if I was going to put him in anywhere, he'd be in here in the all-time greats of the era because he just had an era like people respect him. Everybody respects T-Mac and what he could do. It just wasn't long enough like these other guys possibly would be. So, but if there was a place for him, it's this one.
Yeah, I'll put him here too.
Give me a second.
Yeah, man, honestly, I really can't sit here and fight you on that one, man. Like, that's the one I can sit here and say we pretty much see eye to eye on. And I get what you're saying with AI being the great of that era. So I wouldn't be mad about you pushing him. Like, if we had to come to an agreement, I would probably put him down on the third list. So this is my classics list. So I would definitely sit there and put them in that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I think I have to agree with you. I'm looking at the people I got on my list, and I'm like, I have to agree with you, man. Like, it's probably the most agreement we're going to have on this.
It's solid, man. They greats, but just in their era, didn't get a whole lot of team success, but individually, we know they were great. That's kind of how I look at it. David Robinson is the other one that could kind of almost elevate into the next one. Scottie Pippen obviously is up there too because of how many championships, but Scottie got like very little individual success because, I mean, he played with Mike for 8 years, played like 15 years in the league though. So it's like, Scottie, you did great though, man. I just, it's hard to, he kind of hard to judge. So it's, I could debate where he goes. But nobody would debate that he is a great of his era, obviously. We all know how good Scottie Pippen really is as an individual. But, when you play next to the best player of the whole generation, it's like, well, you good too, though. That's kind of how people look at Scottie. Hey, boy, you good. But, him, no. You know what I mean? So, it's just one of them things.
Man. They feel like the Steph Curry situation or Blake Griffin and his brother. It's like, hey, bro, you in the NBA, you can hoop, but him? That's your brother? I'm sorry, brother, but you up there, So,
Giannis and Thanasis. It's like, dang, boy, hey, man, you there, though. You in here. But him.
I see you, bro. I see you hooping. You get minutes. But him? Hey, that's another conversation, bro. But, yeah, man. I think J Kidd, somebody we can throw on this list too.
Of
that era.
I think
he's
Steve
solid.
Nash is debatable to be in there, but the 2 MVPs kind of almost put him in that all-time greats list, I think. But
Yeah,
J. Kidd,
because of that, I knock him up there.
yeah.
Reggie Miller, I think he's in the conversation. He's in the third, fourth tier for me. He's in the conversation. Like I wouldn't be mad if he was like there.
Yeah. I'm with that.
And somebody that I'll leave him for now. I'll leave him off for now. I want to see if you got him on this next list. You probably just, I think you will agree, but I don't think you have him on your list. So I'm gonna leave him off for now.
Okay.
So, all right, so let's go to your fourth tier, man. Who you got on that list?
The fourth tier, great contributors, guys that were not the guy, but they were one of the guys. Without them, it wouldn't have been the same. And we all know it. We all respect it. And we keep it that way. We make sure we mention these guys. Great contributors. I got Robert Parrish. I also probably should have threw Kevin McHale in there. Kevin McHale should have been in there too. I ain't put him in there, but that's not to mean he doesn't deserve it. I just didn't leave him. I didn't put him in. But Robert Parrish, Pau Gasol, Dennis Rodman, Klay Thompson, Rudy Gobert. We gonna get into it. Ray Allen, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. And this is my kicker. I'm ready to see what you say about this guy. Kyrie Irving. How we feel?
He's probably the top of this list that can arguably be the next tier. Like for me, I don't think about him, but he's probably in my classics tier for me.
And that's understandable.
I think he would be in my classics tier. Like if I think I'll put him classics. I think for my third tier, and he could arguably be the bottom of my second tier. Like you ain't got the big table. You got the kids table of this tier, this group. So he's probably the one who could fluctuate the most for me, man. Like because his career is so weird, man. Like he came in, did his thing, showed talent, but then he's like at the biggest stage showed that he meant just as much as LeBron meant.
Mm-hmm.
And then once LeBron left, it's like same thing like Pippen, like yeah, you great, bro. You can do your thing, but him, generational talent right there, bro. Like you ain't touching what he did. So that's where it's kind of weird for him. But I think if he would have been able to accomplish more on his own, we would look at his career differently. I'm not even saying like win a ring on his. I'm saying like
he don't got no individual awards.
Yeah, if he could have been like in an MVP talk for a year, if he could have been like, say he had 3 seasons where he was like he's arguably MVP. He had moments, he had spurts during the season where he was like MVP runner, but because he couldn't stay healthy or because he had some off court situations go on, he just couldn't fully commit to a full season of greatness. So that's what knocks him down. But we all know talent wise what he can do. Talent wise, he's in that first tier of like, don't compare nobody to Kyrie. Like his handles alone is like his handles and finishing put him in that first tier of like, don't compare nobody to Kyrie Irving, bro. When you combine the career and everything he did, it knocks him down some because yeah, you were great, but you weren't able to sustain that greatness at a length that we need to have to put you in these tiers. So
exactly,
love Kyrie, man, but it's second or third. I have to like really sit down and think about it, but he's second or third tier for me, probably.
Yeah, and I understand that for sure. But Kyrie is just one of them guys. He's a weird case. I think he's the step down version of KD. KD,
yeah,
MVP. Now KD got an MVP, and that kind of obviously that's why I say he a step down. KD ain't had no rings. Went and played with Steph and Clay and them, won them 2, bounced. Ain't been back since. Kyrie was in Cleveland by himself, was rookie of the year, I think, which is cool. But, you know, he just hooping the hoop. He in Cleveland. He figuring it out. He young. He ain't got nobody. It's a sorry team. Bron comes back. And instant championship expectations. He handles the expectations, plays well. He got hurt the first year they was in the finals. Second year, he healthy. They win. Like you said, he shows just how important he is. They win a ring. One of the best rings. Obviously, the weight of the ring helps Kyrie a lot more, obviously, too. So that pushes him up a little bit. But then the next year they lose with KD and them on the Warriors. That's tough. He decides to move on. Ain't been back since. Played with the Boston Celtics. The Celtics got a strong team. Strong team. Can't nobody say the team was bad. He had young JT, young JB, Marcus Smart. Had a strong team. And they couldn't get it done. Then he moves on. He in Brooklyn. Got KD, got James Harden, got Ben Simmons. It doesn't work out. I mean, granted, some things didn't go their way, all that good stuff. KD foot on the line. I get it. But some guys get the job done. Some guys don't. That's just what it is. It's tough. And now we got Kyrie in Dallas, and he's being a great contributor in Dallas. But that's what he is, a great contributor. Now, I think with another ring, I definitely would think about putting him in the greats of the era. Skill-wise, he's definitely one of the greats of our era. He just hasn't accomplished a whole lot individually. So that's part of it. But I throw him in that great contributors because almost every team, Kyrie is the second best player. Almost every team he's been on. The early days in Cleveland, we don't really care about. Then Bron comes, he's the second best player. He go to Boston, he probably the first best player, can't stay healthy. JT kind of comes up, and then it's like 1A, 1B situation, you know what I'm saying? But, it's arguable who was the best player at the time. He moves to Brooklyn. KD is the best player, but they like 1A, 1B. They taking turns going for 40. You know what I mean? And now he in Dallas is obviously Luka's team. So there's almost never a point where you can point at it and be like, Kyrie is going to take them to the championship. You know what I mean? So I got to throw him in the great contributors. If he had maybe an MVP or something like that, I think he would help, obviously. But as of right now, he's a great contributor. And I think that's a good spot for him to be. His career's not over with, obviously, so we'll see what he ends up doing and how he lands at the end. But I tried to throw some guys that's still playing because I want y'all to know how I really feel about them as of right now today. If he was to retire today, throw him in there, great contributor.
All right, so let's kind of rapid fire. Throw a couple of names at you.
Okay.
So this is the name I wanted to bring up early, but I held on. Dominique Wilkins.
Probably would throw him in greats of the era. Was all-star almost every year. I'm pretty sure he was only got a couple first-team All-NBAs, though, because he playing in the same league as Larry Bird. And him and Bird had their battles, but obviously it's Bird's era. So I would put him in the greats of the era.
Vince Carter.
Probably would also throw him in greats of the era. I would have to.
Ben Wallace.
Also greats of the era. He up there with Dwight Howard. I think him and Dwight Howard in that same echelon. So greats of the era.
Yeah, I think for your greats of the era is your third tier.
Yep.
I think the third tier is probably going to be the medius one. That's the one where most people are going to be.
Yeah, it's the median, so it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
it's not going to be a lot of people at the top. It's going to be a couple people at the bottom.
Like, for real, this is a pyramid level. Like, it's select handful at the top. Second tier, you great, but you're not there.
The top.
You at the top. The third base is like, okay, you handle business here. The fourth tier is where we start to kind of get dicey. It's like, now we're arguing if you should be in the Hall of Fame or not. For some people. Now, everybody is you're in there. You're just not. You're not in Kobe Bryant's Hall of Fame. We're not putting you there. Like, we respect you. We love you. But you ain't in that tier. You ain't Mamba mentality. You ain't Air Jordan. Magic. So I think the third tier is probably the meatiest one that, like, if we could have like a numbers thing, it'll probably be like no more than like 6 people for real in that first tier, probably like 7. And then the second tier, let's say like 20 people. Third tier is probably you pushing like 40 people maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like you probably doubling each tier of who you got or the number of people you got at each tier. So this one's gonna be tough. I think the only people I would probably like for my fourth tier is more the impact. So pretty much everybody you named had a strong impact on the game. I don't know if I forgot you said Tony or not, but I'd probably throw him in there.
He's in there. Tony Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah, great contributor.
And now that I think I have to have a fifth tier now. So these are the people that's like, you got our hearts, bro. Like you added something to the game that
We
we
know
can
what you
never.
did.
Yeah, like this is probably a great to the era with an asterisk on it. That's probably what I do. Like you left the impact on this era of hoopers. That's what I can say. The impact of that era. You weren't the greats of this era, but you left the impact for that era. That's how I think that's how I can name it. So first person that I think we all can hands down agree on. Just like by himself, no, not a Hall of Famer, but with this category put in, Jamal Crawford is in this tier of Hall of Fame, bro. Like we know as a hooper, he didn't have all the points. If you would have gave him different situations, probably would have did more. But that man handles, and what he meant to like the shake and bake and everything he did. Like I think
Invented
when he
moves.
brought invented moves that we still can't get to this day, that people still ain't doing. So just get that out of the way. But I think when you think about, he's probably the first player we've seen consistently bring street ball to the NBA. We've seen other players add street ball elements in it. We skip to Malu, White Chocolate. We've seen like AI. We've seen some elements of it, but he's the first person that we saw that was like, you put him on Rucker Park, NBA Finals, and Rico Hines Open Gym, you get the exact same player. That's probably the only player you can say that about in history where it's like there's no change to the game at all.
That's funny because
So
I never thought about it like that, but you're absolutely right.
like think about anybody, maybe Kyrie too. That's probably the only other player you can think about that's like their game does not change. But this dude will play street basketball at every situation he can. His game does not change. So he left the impact on the game. Lou Will. Once again, alone, no, we're not putting you in there. But when you think about the 6 Man of the Year, we're arguably putting your name on that award. You meant something to the game. So he's there. Now I think about it now, I gotta take him off this list. I want to say JJ Redick. And it might be a little more biased to like his name around what he did, but rather than who he actually was. Because if we think about 3-point shooting, I think about JJ Redick. He was the first name to come to mind. And everybody thinks about that. Him and Kyle Korver are like synonymous with 3-point shooting. People think about that era. But I can't put them in that list anymore, so I got to take him off of there. Maybe Chauncey Billups, man. Like, that's somebody I think about. He won Finals MVP. He's a conversation we can have. So, by himself, no. But to that era, he was one of the better point guards. Finals MVP of that upset winning 0-4 team. So that's where the conversation can be had. That's tough, man. So maybe Rasheed Wallace, he's probably third or fourth tier, maybe. You start having a conversation. But this is where it kind of gets, you can start watering down, putting too many names here. So this is a tough one, man. This the one I'm willing to like being a little bit on. But for me, Jamal Crawford is not a conversation to be had. Like, he's in a tier of like, you can't mention 2000s basketball or 2010s, like that era he was in, and leave him out. Like, you can have the conversation and kind of like, he gets a couple sentences. Like, the first tier gets chapters, the second tier gets paragraph, multiple paragraphs, I'll say, sections of a chapter. That third tier, they get in sentences of a paragraph. This fourth tier gets at least a sentence or two. Jamal Crawford has to have a sentence or two. Lou Will has to have a couple sentences. So that's kind of how I see it. Chauncey Billups in the conversation. We can debate on that, but I can't put them in the same tier as a KG, as a J Kid. Like, you didn't do the same things they did. So I put them in there, but it's like, I don't feel great about everybody in this conversation. This is where we start to get dicey, and it's like, if we had an honorable mention, I'll throw them in your tier, what you got in there, but this one's tough.
I mean, but when you get to the bottom, it gets like that. The bottom of the tier, because I feel like the people at the top is pretty easily recognizable. Like, all right, bro, they up there. The very top, I mean, the top of the list. The people at the last tier, right before getting left off, that's where you gotta, because there's a line. There's a line. There's no ceiling, but it's definitely a floor. Somebody gonna hit the ground. You do what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I remember when we was talking about Sean Marion, I said the thing about when if you put somebody like Sean Marion in the Hall of Fame is once you put somebody like Sean Marion in, he gonna become the floor of where people be like, Sean Marion in there. I did this and this and this, and y'all got Sean Marion in there. I think I need to be in there. That's what you run the risk of when you talking about the floor. That's what you risking. Is having that guy, like, obviously there's no order, like we said. There's nobody that's like, all right, this is the worst guy in the Hall of Fame. Nobody does that. But there are certain people that we might not say that, but when people get to, like, when another guy retires and it's their time and they get to think about, all right, bro, do I or do I not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? There's going to be certain guys they point at, like, you got him in there. Me and him got the same amount of All-Stars. I got more points. I got more rebounds, this and that. And they don't get to splitting hairs. And you got to answer that. You got to answer. If you on the committee, you got to be like, nah, we like him over you. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's where the floor gets kind of dicey. It's like, dang, bro, you got him in there and not me? Ain't nobody looking at the top of the top like, dang, you got Mike in there and not me? Nobody doing that. But when you get to the bottom, I'm going to point at some of them. You did what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is why we got our bottom tier, my bottom tier, the did not do enough. And we going to throw some of y'all in there. Hate to, hey, love you though. Love you though. That's what the end of the letter going to say if you on that list. Love you though. Nelson Haskins. Hey, well, wish you all the best. And it's funny that you mentioned this guy because the first guy on my did not do enough list, none other than Mr. Chauncey Billups. Did not do enough. Also, I got 6 guys on here right now, but if you want to ask me some more, I will tell you if they belong in there or not. I got Chauncey Billups. I got Jimmy Butler. I got Bill Laimbeer. I got Tim Hardaway Sr. I got Grant Hill. And I got Yao Ming. I wanted these are different eras. I wanted to cover the bases. These guys did not do enough. If they insert their name and I gotta decide, did not do enough. Love you though.
Okay.
And Yao is in the Hall of Fame. For those who don't know, Yao is in. Grant Hill is in. Tim Hardaway is in. Bill Laimbeer is in. Chauncey Billups went in this year, or is going in this year. So, if they was to ask me though, hey, didn't do enough. Sorry, guys. Denied. So
see, I think Yao would be in my 4th tier. He's in there, but he's probably in the 4th tier of, like, you had an impact on the game. You know, we had Spurs where we saw your greatness, and it's like, if you could have stayed healthy, we know you would have did more. So I can't completely knock you off the list.
Right.
But I can't just comfortably put you in there. Like, I'm not putting you in the same category as KG and Dirk and them. Like, I can't do that. I don't feel right saying you're in the same bracket or same category as these guys. But you in there. You know, you're in the room.
You're in the room.
So I could throw Yao in my 4th tier. Like, you had a strong impact. Like him, Jamal Crawford, I feel like y'all in the close enough category we can talk about that. How you feel about Chris Bosh?
Great contributors. He got 2 championships. Big time contributor on those rings. He was the guy in Toronto for several years. I would throw him in the great contributors. That's another thing. None of them guys in that did not do enough list got a championship except Chauncey. And the thing about Chauncey Billups, and I knew we was going to discuss this, so I got the stats right here. Chauncey Billups, 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Defense. Now, is that good? Yes. Is that Hall of Fame? 5 All-Stars, 3 All-NBAs, 2 All-Defenses. Keep in mind, Chauncey Billups played 17 years. You talking about 5 All-Star years, 3 All-NBAs, and if we want to split hairs, let's go and look into what All-NBAs he got. If we want to split hairs, he got All Defensive Second Team twice. He got All-NBA Second Team, All-NBA Third Team, All-NBA Third Team. Yeah, spooky.
Right. So okay.
Never was All-NBA First Team. So he was never even the best point guard for a season or had the best season out of point guards. I know that's a tough position to win in, but hey.
Okay, let's think about this. So let's go back to our conversation we had earlier about looking at these players. Matter of fact, let me do it like this. All right.
While you doing that, I'm going to grab my charger and my laptop finna die. 1 second.
Yeah, we don't need that, brother. All right, so this player I have in front of me. Actually, let me go to a website. All right, so this player I have in front of me. Let me find some more stats on him. All right, so he's in the Hall of Fame. He is a 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. He also has a Finals MVP, and he won. You can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So 6-time All-Star. He's in the Hall of Fame right now. 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. He won All-Rookie team, and he is a Finals MVP. Only difference is he has 4 rings to Chauncey's 1. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So he was also never the best point guard in his era, like Chauncey. Didn't win All Defensive Team, and I can't say he impacted that much more. Like he has like a notch above the impact on the game than Chauncey. Who do you think I'm talking about? Like, what before we go there, what do you think about that resume so far?
You said 4 rings?
Mm-hmm.
That's solid, brother.
He averaged, let's round it up and say 16 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds as a guard.
That's solid.
But he was never truly like the best. He probably had like 2 seasons he was the best player on the team. Never really like the best point guard in that era. He had conversations around it, but he's never like the best.
I think 4 rings and solid numbers starting every year. I think you probably sliding in there as a great contributor.
All right. So what's the difference between Tony Parker and Chauncey Billups? That's what I was talking about.
4 rings, great contributor, Finals MVP for one of the 4, started for all those teams. I gotta go with Tony. That's consistent winning.
Okay, but here's the thing too. I'm finna go back to Tim Duncan and KG because Chauncey played with KG.
Right.
Timmy played with Duncan. So if we're going to compare these two, you have to look at the fact that Tony was in a stable system. He was given the keys to the car that he could drive. Like imagine you had to go outside and you knew your car was there every day. Versus, man, I don't know if I have my car, if I have to take a bike, if I got to take the bus. Like I don't know what I'm finna deal with, but I'm trying to do the best I can to go drive every day. 2 different situations. Your mindset is totally. I don't have to worry about. All I have to worry about is making sure I got enough money for my gas and nothing crazy happens along the way. Versus, man, if it's raining today, I got to make sure that I got to take an umbrella for my bike, and now I make sure I got this for the bus. Like you have to worry about all these other factors. When you have consistency and stability in certain areas of your game or your career, it's going to look totally different from somebody like a Chauncey who bounced around from the Timberwolves to the Nuggets to the Pistons to this team to that team to that team. So he's not going to be afforded the same rings as Tony Parker when you playing with a first tier or second tier player. Same thing as a KG. And he played with Melo. He played with Sheed and KG. Like he played with these guys. But we can't sit here and say that Chauncey and Tony Parker are that far apart. Like I think it's really a splitting hairs at this point. And if you're giving it just because of rings, and I think, okay, what about all defensive team? That's more of an individual award there. So that's why I'm thinking that's why I can't say the rings automatically make you a better player than another player because we're looking at individual awards now. Defensive team, he has how many he had?
2.
3?
2.
2 versus 0. Individual awards now. Me as an individual player on my defense is better than you. Yes, you got a great floater. Amazing. Your little spin move, amazing. Lovely. I can lock people up. You got rings in one finals MVP to my one finals MVP. These individual awards now.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking stats for stats, records for records, awards for awards. You have 3 more rings than me. So that puts you in a whole different tier than me. And you're not the guy for those other rings. Maybe not even the second guy for all those rings.
Whoa. Let's talk about this now. Was Chauncey Billups the best player? Out of that Pistons team, if you could draft one guy off that Pistons team, you taking Chauncey Billups, not Ben Wallace? The 3-time DPOY Ben Wallace now.
That's what I'm saying. It's arguable. He's 1 or 2.
But I'm saying, though, Tony Parker, not number 1, obviously, for Tim Duncan. But still, Tim Duncan, all-time greatest power forward ever. Tony Parker, Finals MVP. Chauncey Billups, they had a very solid overall team. Like, everybody can admit
and
that.
Look who he beat, though. And he beat
Shaq and Kobe. Now, I got you. I feel that. But Tony contributing to winning more than Chauncey Billups. And that's just real. Chauncey, like, the rings mean something, brother. Like, they contributed
to winning. It do mean something, but at the same time, we're not gonna sit here and compare Tony being able to eat shrimp and lobster in the back seat of a Lamborghini for years versus Chauncey having a beat up Honda Accord, doing the best he can, going against a Ferrari and beating them. Like, we're not gonna sit and compare these 2 vehicles, bro, and tell me that the driver or at least the passenger side of this car is gonna be better than somebody in the back seat. Like, we can't sit here and tell me that we're gonna sit and have the same conversation with these guys just because you in a nicer car than I was. So I'm
not liking the comparison for the Pistons. The Pistons was solid. I get they played Shaq and Kobe, but you talking about Chauncey, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace. All great players. All stars at some point in time. All 5 of them. So I'm not going to see it. And now, is they as good as the Spurs? No. But I'm not going to sit here and act like they were some scrubs and Chauncey Billups carried them to the finals. No. I'm not doing that.
Okay, let's do it like this. We're drafting between that 07 Spurs team and the 04 Pistons team. Tim Duncan's first.
Tony Parker second.
Well, you sick. I'm taking Ben Wallace over Tony.
I'll take Ben Wallace second. I'll take Ben Wallace
okay,
second.
Then. Thank you.
It's arguable.
Thank you. I was finna say, boy, you sound sick right now. Ain't no way you think. Ain't no way I'm thinking that. So, you going Tim Duncan first, Ben Wallace second, because he locking up pretty much any big you had. He locked with Shaq, so that's like, all right, bro.
You got 2 lock-up bigs right there.
Now you're going to have the conversation of, do you want to have Tony versus Chauncey? Now you're starting to debate them 2. And you can throw Ginobili in there, honestly. I won't be mad at you. You can argue that. But I think you start to argue Ginobili versus Sheed. That's the real conversation you got to have.
Thanks.
That's the third conversation you need to have. But then you start to look at Rip and Tayshaun. And then, let's say 07. So you got to look at Bruce Bowen. And that shooting guard is almost irrelevant every year. So there's no disrespect to whoever that was. Can't even remember right now. But, whatever. So it's like, the fact that it's Head and Shoulders number 1, Head and Shoulders number 2, we're arguing about these 2 point guards at number 3. That's something to be said. So we can't sit here and act like Tony is that much better when we're in the same space. And you had better help, hands down, than I did. Like, you playing with the all-time great. Somebody's in my first tier. So I can't sit here and be like, Chauncey is that much worse than Tony off of 3 rings. Or 3 rings difference when you were, in 1 year, you were probably the best player on the court, which is why you won Finals MVP. The second one, you were probably 3rd best player, which Kawhi won that last one.
Okay. Let's also remember now, Chauncey Billups played 17 years, B. 17. He
All
also
right,
played
man.
with Melo and them in Denver. Let's
And
not
he was an
forget.
impact player. He was probably the top 3 players on that team.
And they never touched the finals.
Who they run up against too?
Oh, now we talking about
The
who?
Spurs and Lakers.
Bruh, what you want me to tell you? Some guys get it done. Tony
But
contributed more to winning.
you not finna act like Tony was getting it done over Chauncey.
I would like to say he was, bro. I'm not gonna lie. 4 rings
No,
says he
man.
was. And that's not even. I can see the debate if Tony Parker just was like a guy, but Tony also got 4 All-Stars. I get he ain't got no all defensive teams. I get that, but Tony also got some All-Stars and he was All NBA 4 times. So he was a great player on the team. He was solid. I get Chauncey probably was the main guy. He was the captain of the team, whatever you want to say. But neither one of them was their team best player. I would say Tony still contributed more to winning.
If we're talking player for player here, we're talking about individually what can you do for my team versus individually what you can do for my team. Chauncey does more for your team because he plays the other half of the court for you consistently.
But I'm not gonna say that because saying that implies that Tony Parker doesn't play defense or he was a scrub on defense.
I said he was better and more consistent on that end.
Okay, that's valid. Also, though, let's since we here, let's go ahead and do the whole comparison. Let's go ahead and do the whole comparison.
All right.
Tony Parker played 18 seasons. Chauncey Billups played 17, so pretty even. Tony Parker went to 17 playoffs. Chauncey went to 12. Like, of course, the Spurs, they longevity, they made the playoffs every year. Only year Tony didn't make the playoffs when he went to Charlotte, and that was just sad.
We count the year, but we don't.
Right, we know you was there, but hey, Tony Parker 6 All-Stars to Chauncey Billups 5, so pretty even. They both got 1 Finals MVP. Tony 4 All-NBA teams to Chauncey's 3. And Chauncey 2 all-defensive teams to Tony 0. They stats pretty even. Now let's look at totals for what they did in their career. Keep in mind now, Tony only played 1 more season more. Tony Parker got almost 4,000 more assists. More points. Got 400 more rebounds. Got 1,500 more assists. Got almost the same amount of steals. Chauncey Billups got 70 more blocks. And Tony played 200 more games. 4,000 more points, 1,000 or 400 more rebounds, 1,000, 1,500, whatever more assists. Tony is contributing more to winning. And I get Chauncey was a better defender. I get it. But I'm taking the 4,000 more points. All the percentages benefit Tony. Chauncey shot threes a little bit better. His best season, Chauncey averaged 19 and a half. So Chauncey never averaged more than 20 points. Tony averaged 22 his best season. They averaged the same amount of rebounds at their best. Chauncey best was 8.5 assists. Tony was 7.7. They averaged the same amount of steals and blocks. I'm liking Tony, bro. I get I get how you might feel like the contribution was similar, but what affected winning? Who affected winning more? Clearly, it was Tony Parker. More points,
all right,
more rebounds, more assists.
I was trying to look up because I know Chauncey had injuries early in his career.
Chauncey had injuries at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, but okay, look at it like this. You put Chauncey on the Spurs. He's hands down number 2 on that team. Like, there's no conversation to be had. He plays both ends of the floor. He's captaining the front end of that defense, and Tim Duncan's anchoring the back of that defense. Hands down, the second best player. Manu will give you spurts and moments. I think Chauncey comes in. He's like, bro, I'm number 2 on this team. When you flip Tony, put him on the Pistons. What happens to the Pistons team?
I think they still good. Matter of fact,
I'm not saying they're not bad, but I'm taking Chauncey what I'm saying is we had to put them in the same conversation. That's the worst we can do. I think you had to put Chauncey and TP in the same conversation. Now, if I have to say who's better, I'm taking Chauncey. Player for player. We're drafting these guys. Who are you picking?
Tony Parker.
Why are you saying that? Don't say nothing about him impacting when he gets stats and stuff like that. Player for player, who you taking?
The better scorer, and I feel like I can trust Tony to take over a game more than Chauncey Billups. If I had to make one of them the number one option, give me Tony Parker. I don't think Chauncey's a great scorer in any facet of the game. I don't think he's a slouch. You know what I mean? I think he's a good defender. I think he's solid. I think he hang his hat on defense though, and that benefited that Pistons team because they were a defensive team. You talking about the team with
Spurs were too.
You right, but what was the Spurs calling card? Ball movement.
Defense.
No, remember the Spurs.
Early on.
Tony wasn't there early on like that though. The first two championships
by the time he got there, it changed. So I give you that.
Yeah. So, but defense, obviously they play great defense too. But a calling card for that Spurs team was ball movement. How well the ball moved between Tony Parker, Manu, Tim, Boris Diaw, Bruce Bowen. Them guys moving the ball, playing together consistently. And that's not to say I don't think Chauncey Billups can pass or nothing like that. But I think they are two different players that benefited what their teams did. And Chauncey's team was a defensive team, and he was good for that. He fit that role. You got Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace behind you. Tayshaun Prince, long, athletic. Chauncey Billups guarding that point guard. You locking up. That's what they hang their hat on. Mm-hmm. Tony and them could play D. Obviously, they were very solid on defense. Got Tim Duncan back there. Had Tiago Splitter. You know what I mean? Guys that was going to protect the rim. But Tony could score. Tony could give you buckets if you needed it. Manu was the same way. He going to come off the bench and give you buckets. But they moving the ball consistently. They playing together. And Tony is one of the key components of that. I think I'm taking Tony for that offensive skill set more than I'm taking Chauncey for the defense. And obviously
so Tony is
to win it.
Tony is a better scorer. I will give you that. But you got to think, too, Chauncey's coming from the mindset of the pure point guard mindset, too. So I think if you said, Chauncey, go give me 30, he's like, cool, I'm going to give you 30. But now, will you have to remind him more to give you 30? Yes, because his mind is programmed to be a point guard. But I feel like if you put Chauncey in a score-first mindset, he's not going to have an issue giving you that because you look at who he played with early in his career. He played with Boston, Toronto. So he played with Paul Pierce a little bit. And Toronto, 97. He played with T-Mac, I think. That was the T-Mac year. And Vince Carter years, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he went to Denver. And that was just early Denver. So I don't even remember. It's like the Kim Mutombo might have been on that team. Remember the early 2000s. But anyway, he got Minnesota. He played with KG. So he's deferring to KG. And he's still trying to find his footing with that team. And he probably was hurt, to be honest with you. Mm. Yeah, that first year he played 13 games. And then Detroit really found himself. So team basketball where everybody's getting some. I think Rip Rasheed is probably the scorer on that team. Then he moved to Denver. And of course that was the Melo time. So he's answering the Melo. So Melo, make sure he getting set up and squared away. New York, that's the next Melo team, right? So that was them. And he played with the Clippers. That was Chris Paul in them years. He went back to Detroit. So he was always saying, hey, I'm setting you up, big guy. I'm setting you up, Melo. So I'm setting up KG. I'm setting up my big. I'm a floor setter. I'm a floor general. I'm not looking for him to score. But he can also say, hey, you're not going to score on me. I think that's the difference there. So you're taking a score first point guard, which is cool. But I'm looking at both ends of the floor, which you can provide for me overall. So I'm thinking Chauncey, I'm taking him one notch higher. If we're picking players, I'm taking Chauncey. So yes, but here's the thing too. Game winner, who you picking?
Tony.
You sound sick now, bro.
I get it. The big shot, Billers, whatever. Tony.
No, forget the nickname. I don't care about the nickname. Tony for 3.
Tony.
You're not choosing Tony for a 3 ball.
I'm
You're not choosing
choosing
Tony Parker for a 3
Tony.
ball. You're not choosing Tony Parker for a 3
I
ball, bro.
won't
You're not
equal
doing that.
dollar. I'm choosing Tony, brother. Tony is
Bro,
the
you're
guy.
not picking in today's game. You're picking Tony Parker over Chauncey Billups for you down 3 points.
I'm choosing Tony Parker to get a bucket over Chauncey Billups. I don't care where the bucket got to be from. Don't care.
I'm picking Chauncey, bro.
Do you know Tony Parker career high is 55? You want to know what
I know he
Chauncey?
can score the ball.
You know what Chauncey Billups
I know he
career
can
high
score the ball.
was? 39. Never even had a 40 ball.
Okay.
And I know that ain't
Listen.
everything, but if I need a bucket, give me Tony.
Listen, if I need a game to get me go crazy, I'm picking Tony too. But if I have to pick a player as my point guard, of course I'm going to go score first with Tony. Of course. But we're not going to sit here and act like Tony averaging 20 and Chauncey averaging 10. It's not that big of a jump, especially when you got inconsistency around you and you're dealing with more injuries than Tony did. So I just feel like for me personally, they're close enough in the category that I'm like, and wherever you have one guy, you got to put him at least at worst case scenario, mention him. Because I think we're giving, this is why I say we give too much weight to rings. Because Tony's rings do not weigh the same as Tim Duncan's rings.
Well, obviously,
But
if
Tim
you're the
Duncan was
number one
first and
guy,
foremost. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. But Chauncey is the number one guy, essentially, for those Pistons teams.
them Pistons teams was winning by committee, not by individual.
But who's the number one guy? No, don't do that now.
No,
Who's the number one guy on that
winning
team?
by committee. Nobody
But
was
who's the number
dominant.
one guy? No, bro. So you trying to tell me the floor setter for that team means nothing now?
Brother.
It ain't Jeff Teague and the Hawks, bro, where it's just straight ball movement. I'm the point guard. So Rip ain't scoring without me. Tayshaun Prince ain't scoring without me. She the only one who's scoring without me. She's the only one who's scoring buckets without me having to set the floor. Ben Wallace, but you averaging 4. So we ain't talking about your offense.
We ain't talking about that at all.
Bro, Rip ain't getting into his game without me. Yes, you need the screens and everything. We got to pass you the ball. Me. Tayshaun Prince, you athletic, non-scoring wing like that, bro. Especially young Prince. You weren't getting buckets like that. So it's Prince and it's she and Chauncey getting your buckets. Like, go get a bucket. They're the ones you call. Rip, you coming off screens. Prince, you probably coming off screens and more slashing. So Tayshaun Prince and Richard Hamilton not score the ball as much if you don't have Chauncey Billups there setting the floor for him. This ain't Jeff Teague. We talking about little ball movement Hawks where scoring by committee, winning by committee. No, bro. The offense begins with me every time. Now we're probably gonna say, hey, we need to get Rip going the first couple plays. Cool. Get shit touches. Cool. I'm not finna sit here and act like Chauncey Billups was not like the guy on that team. This is win by committee, but there's tiers on that Pistons teams, and Chauncey's on that first tier.
Okay. So we don't put this is my last thing. We just have to agree to disagree. Do we not put more stock in Tony Parker winning finals MVP on Tim Duncan's team than Chauncey Billups winning finals MVP with the Pistons with those guys you just said cannot score without him? Like,
Can I be honest with you?
Go ahead.
No.
All right, bro. Then we agree to disagree.
No, Chauncey was the best player. Chauncey was the best player on that team.
All right, bro. We just decided we were taking Ben Wallace over Chauncey if we had to draft somebody.
He's the better player, but on that team and in that series,
he was the most valuable.
I'm taking him. He's the guy. Yeah, the most valuable.
Okay, but
he's providing on both the floor.
Okay, I just feel like if I'm playing on a team with an all-time great player like Tim Duncan, and I was the best player for the whole series, that says more than me being the best player on a very like win by committee type of team. I just think so. I'm sorry to tell you, brother. Like that, I'm the best player next to Tim Duncan. Like, what we talking about? But anyway, man, for the sake of time, we might probably just agree to disagree on Tony and Chauncey. Tony just slid in. Chauncey just barely didn't get it. He made the cut, in my opinion. He probably is one of the top guys to not make it though. So, but in all fairness, I believe if, like I said earlier, with the floor and the ceiling, if Tony Parker's the guy we pointed at, like, man, y'all got Tony Parker in there. I got this. I got that. I got this. I think that's a good floor to have. You know what I mean? Because it's a little more hard to debate somebody with Tony's resume than some of the guys that's in the Hall of Fame right now. But is there is there anybody else that you feel like is an issue with them being in the did not do enough category? Because like I said, just to reiterate, we got Chauncey Billups, we got Jimmy Butler, Bill Laimbeer, Tim Hardaway, Grant Hill, and Yao Ming. So how are we feeling about that so far?
I will say I'm not opposed to anybody on that list. But I will say we can probably have like we've been doing the whole time, better conversation about people who should be in there, who could go in there. So we've been on it for a minute, man. I know people kind of getting tired of us, going these little tangents and side missions of this person or this person stuff, man. But I think overall, man, I think we need to have this is a better discussion to have around the Hall of Fame. I think we do need to do a better job of like, if you put tiers in there, of course, like we said earlier, somebody gonna be mad, man. Why in that tier? Why I'm in the third tier, not the second tier? Man, KD be like, man, you should put me in that first tier. Timmy be like, man, put me in that first tier. So I think it's on a conversation we can have. And some people like Derrick Rose, tough conversation to have. He's tough. We're gonna get into that. But one person I do kind of want to have this conversation with you about.
Shoot.
I feel like I know where you're gonna put him. Kawhi Leonard.
Greats of the era. Got to put him in the greats of the era. 2 rings, one with Toronto, first in franchise history.
Yep.
One Finals MVP with the Spurs, so 2 Finals MVPs, 2 rings. He got a Defensive Player of the Year. He won the greats of the era. Now his career stats ain't gonna look like it because how many games he actually missed, but accolades wise, it ain't too many people can say what he two championships, 2 Finals MVPs, 2 different franchises. Ain't too many people saying that, and then the DPOY on top of that. So yeah, I gotta call him greatest of the era, one of the greatest of the era.
I ain't mad about it. I think we can have a conversation of second or third tier.
If he had the better career longevity and more points, more assists and stuff from longevity, I think you got a better conversation. But because of that asterisk on his career, he still accomplished some great things, obviously. But because of that, it's hard to like put him in the same tier as like Larry Bird, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant, those guys. I think he perfect right in there with James Harden, Carmelo Anthony. And I think that's his speed.
Yeah, I think what makes him so difficult is because he have the highs, like the highest highs. Like you put Kawhi, you put Kawhi on his highest high. He's up there with that second tier, but because he has such low lows or like absentees that you knock him down some. So like the fact that he won 2 championships in 2 different places, Finals MVP both those times, means a lot. The fact that he was arguably the best defender of his generation and one of the top 10 defenders of all time, just don't know about that, but he one of the better defenders of all time, says a lot. So like all these accolades you have on him, then you look, okay, let's go one step deeper. Oh, he only has this many points, but you put him in this category. He only has this many rebounds and assists, so on and so forth. It's like, oh, you start pulling him down. Then you look at his postseason success, and it's like, that look kind of weird. But it's high of highs. You got to put him in that conversation category of all these other people. So that's what Kawhi is at, man. Like his high of highs, you put him with the other greats and legends, but then it's like, oh, you don't have the longevity and the full stability at the bottom to like build your case up even higher. But like you a really tall skyscraper, just a really skinny but tall skyscraper. That's what his speed is like. Other guys is like it's a mile wide and a mile deep and 50-foot high skyscraper. His is 2 foot wide, miles high, and not as deep. So that's where the awkwardness comes in about Kawhi's career and stuff, man. But Kawhi Leonard's probably a tough one to wrestle about. But I don't think he's as arguable as like a Chauncey versus Tony Parker like we just had, man. So
Oh nah.
uh,
That's a good. I'm happy with those kind of debates.
yeah.
You deal what I'm saying? Because before we was talking about Sean Marion, and I don't think we comparing Sean Marion to Tony Parker. If Tony Parker was the floor, like I said, I don't think nobody being like, but you got Tony Parker in there, you ain't gonna put in Sean Marion? Yes. I don't think nobody's arguing that. So I'm good with that. And I take that every day of the week if I'm on the committee. So I'm
Okay.
happy.
So you would hypothetically speak, I know we ain't put too much thought into this. Would Tony Parker be your floor of like players to put in there?
Oh, well, let me look at the people I got on here. I mentioned Robert Parrish, who was probably close to the floor, but they won 3.
That's looking like the floor.
That's looking like the floor because he don't have no Finals MVPs or individual awards, I don't think. But he was one of the best centers at the time. They won 3 championships, one of the best teams of all time. So I threw him in there. So he probably closer to the floor than Tony Parker. Then you got your Rudy Gobert, but 3 DPOYs, kind of hard to argue against. You got to put him in the Hall of Fame. Guys with 3 individual awards don't get left out. If we put Jamal Crawford in, we putting him in.
Listen, I'm not the biggest Rudy Gobert fan. Not a hater per se. I respect what he does.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like 3 of them. I don't feel like he's worthy of 3. 1 for sure.
You ain't the only one.
Maybe 3 is a stretch. So that's where it's kind of like, whatever.
You ain't the only one.
But we're gonna take what we have. I can't argue about what's not there in this case. Yeah. So whatever.
Ray Allen, 2 rings, one of the greatest shooters of all time. I think people not arguing for that. Tony and Manu. Manu got the 6 mans of the years. I think he got 2 of them. I don't think too many people gonna argue that. Robert Parrish, as of right now, from what I got, obviously, like you said, we ain't put a whole lot of thought into who goes into what. But Robert Parrish right now is probably the floor. Robert Parrish or Rudy Gobert. But Rudy Gobert, 3 DPOYs, hard to argue. Robert Parrish, part of one of the greatest teams of all time. Several All-Stars, several All-NBAs, 3 rings. So the guys that's on the floor still got multiple rings. You know what I'm saying? So the guys that don't have no rings but still did some great things, if they don't get in, they'll point at those guys. But at the end of the day, they contributed to winning rings, and they'll it will make people draw the line. Like, all right, bro, you didn't win no ring. I know what you did. If you don't win a ring, you got to have some individual awards to go along with your stuff. You can't just be a good player. You know what I'm saying? You got to have something to go along with it. Either some MVP, some DPOY, some kind of awards, or several All-NBAs to let us know you was one of the greats of your time, so you could slide into that greats of the era. Something.
Yeah.
But because James Harden ain't got no rings, but nobody denying he one of the best players of our era. Same for Carmelo, same for Clyde Drexler.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of everything, but you need some.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And I think we start to have more nuanced basketball talk. Because, like you got to be a real fan to talk about Chauncey versus Tony. Like, I'm tired of hearing LeBron versus Jordan. Like, everybody does that. It's like, all right, cool. What's next?
Right.
It gets to the point where it's like, all right. I think the next tier is like KG, Dirk, and KG. I mean, KG, Dirk, Timmy. That's the next conference. That's the next tier. Then it's like, all right, let's get a little bit more into it. Who's the better 6 man? Is it Jamal Crawford, Lou Will, Manu? Who you picking? Like, okay. Chauncey versus Tony. Who you picking? Okay. So I think we got this invites the conversation of like a more detailed, a more nuanced basketball talk rather than just a shallow ESPN, Jordan, Kobe, Bron. All right, thanks. we talked about that 5 minutes ago. All right, next segment. Same thing. But whose jersey look better? Next segment. Whose shoes are better? Like, bro, we're talking about the same people, just different angles of the exact same thing, bro. Like, all right, bro, let's move on. So, but yeah, I think I like this conversation, man. It starts to trend in a better direction of like, okay, how much weight do you put in this? How much weight do you put in that? So you value scoring more, and he's contributing to the 4 rings. And I'm like, bro, player for player, I'm taking Billups. So I had this conversation, man. I think we doing something here with what we got going on. So I think at the end of the day, man, I said what I said. I said my piece. You said what you said. But now it's time for listeners to come in and like, hey, but you sound crazy. Put Steve Nash in this category. Put AI in this category. Put J Kidd in it. Like, put these players here. But you sound crazy. Billups is not that good. Tony all day. I'm team Tony Parker all day. Man, forget Tony Parker, bro. He don't even deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because of this, that, and the third. Listen, we want to hear all of it. So comment your thoughts below. Let us know what you have to think. If you're on YouTube right now, and not later on, do it like right now. Pause for a second. Put your comment in there. Okay. Make sure you subscribe too. Okay, gotta do that. So subscribe, leave a comment, man. Let us know what you think. Let us know if Nelson crazy, if I'm crazy. What your tiers look like? What would you name your tiers? Give us a couple people who you put in the tiers, man. So, but that's all I got, man. I think that's gonna lead the people before we get out of here.
I like Tony. I ain't gonna lie to you. But no, man, I'm good, bro. Be sure to like, subscribe, man. We appreciate y'all for listening, all that good stuff.
But that's it, man. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you in the next video.
See ya.